And we are live, Senators.
Thank you, Alex. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Vermont State Senate Committee on Institutions. Today is February 25th, 2022. Chief, you're going to have to remember that you are live on, you can't mute yourself apparently from our committee room. And we are here to talk about several different things, which we're going to get to in just a moment. First, to let folks know who we are, I go across my screen. I have Senator Dick Mazza from Colchester, Grand Isle, Senator Russ Ingalls from Essex, Orleans, Senator Richard McCormick from Windsor County, and Senator Corey Parent from Franklin County. We have a YouTube environment that we are living in these days, and I just want to repeat that anything that goes on here is broadcast live, with one exception today, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But for any witnesses who may be on screen or listening and ready to testify today, I give this same spiel to everybody. We have a YouTube audience that we have no idea who they are. And what I try to do in these committee discussions is reach a common language that everybody can understand. So if a witness is testifying and you happen to use either some vocabulary or an acronyms or whatever the case may be, that red flags for me the possibility that our YouTube audience may not understand what that terminology is. I may interrupt your testimony, not to be rude, but just to get everybody on the same page by asking you to explain what X, Y, or Z happens to stand for. Having said all of that, our schedule today includes what has been noted as an executive session regarding State House security. And just for the listening public who may be interested in why and how we get to go into executive session and not broadcast this conversation, there are certain security measures that are taken at the State House, which we do not broadcast to the public. And the Senate has been in a hybrid mode, mostly remote, for about a year and a half now. And my intention was to hear from the chief of police what steps have been taken by way of security and what may be continued by way of security as the Senate returns to session. I do not anticipate it will be a very long conversation, but the subject matter content is the kind of thing that we do not normally broadcast to the public for obvious reasons. There are no pressing issues by way of concern that I'm aware of. We are simply asking to have an update on what security steps have been taken and whether or not they will continue after the Senate has returned. Now, having started with that, it is not our first item of agenda. Our first item of business this afternoon has to do with our State House hybrid update. And I've asked the Sergeant at Arms, Janet Miller, to come in and talk to us about what's been going on there in the old State House that we all love and miss. And we're kind of looking forward to an update, what to expect when we literally walk through the door. Can we still walk through the door, or is there any obstacles in front of us?
So thank you, Senator Benny. And that's a good question. That's a good thing to start off with. Janet Miller, Sergeant at Arms here at the Vermont State House. So we'll just start with the beginning about which doors are available to use right now. And right now we have the Lincoln door open, and we have the back left corner of the State House, which we refer to as the loading dock door. So those are the two doors and entrances that we've been using. And I think we'll keep that up at least through the bad weather. It seems to make more sense with our limited janitorial staff. It's really keeping the State House free of salt, which, you know, is a big problem in the building. So I think we'll continue to keep things that way. Right now, you know, good majority of the House members are back. So that seems to be going pretty well. They just voted today on a resolution how to continue their work. And, you know, just a few updates that the committee rooms are open, and they do have limited seating, which we had considered the best practice for now. So that does have a limited seating in the committee rooms. The Senate chamber, I think I would leave that up to Senator Bloomer. You probably will, you already got discussions going with him as to what is happening for your Senate chamber. We do have a new coat room that you might be interested in. So once you do find your way through the new doors, the coat room is back where Mike Ferrant used to be, back where Ledge Council used to be, back where I used to be. So there's the new coat room there. And the old coat room is now one of our House committee rooms for now. So that's what we have happening in there. The Cedar Creek room, we still do have a limited capacity up there, so we aren't doing any functions or affairs up there other than a very small press release or something like that. But that would just, press conference, that would just be for members only. And we aren't booking anything from the outside in the State House now. Well, we're trying to still, create space in the State House. And so we do have some limited space here still. So that's kind of basically the upshot of what's happening. Parking will still be about the same. You may not, if you had a designated spot with your name on the placard, you can just talk to Chief about where your parking space is now. So, and I guess I'll leave it at that, but I'm certainly here to answer any of your questions.
So when we walk through the door, whichever door we happen to find, are we greeted by anything? A person, a machine? What's going on there?
No, nothing. We do have a temperature scanner still at our doorways. They have not gone off. We just had it as a tiny extra measure. We still are requiring masks, and we are requiring, and this is the joint rules mask policy for the building, no cloth masks, only surgical masks or a step up as a KN95 and an N95 also, which is a step up from that. We can provide the surgical mask to anyone that enters the building, and they'll be right at the door, and we can provide our members with a upgraded mask, because we do have limited quantities that we can't offer to everyone.
So you used the term "we" in reference to who was requiring something. I just want to clarify for our YouTube audience, it's technically not you, but rather the rules committees that have made these decisions about what happens when we walk through the door. Is that safe to say? That's
safe to say, and thank you for that, because we do decide to whatever rules we're told to follow. I'm the one I'm the enforcer of the rules that you folks decide on.
I see Senator McCormick has a hand up, and Senator Ingalls also had a hand up, but Senator McCormick, I see your bright yellow hand first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just very quickly, out of curiosity, where has Ledge Council been moved to if their office is now the cloakroom?
Yes, so Mike Ferrant, who's a very important person here, you will see right in his old area where his desk used to be, he's right across from that in the little room that used to be a conference room. He has a new office in there. And so upstairs is still the legal counsel people. Those folks are still up there. And then the drafting.
Well, then what about, Mike wasn't alone there. There were
yes.
Charlene, and there was a bunch of staffers there.
Yes, there were two others.
Where are they now?
There were two others, and they are now down in 2 Aiken, and they're available to come up to meet with you. So you can arrange that through Mike or just email Charlene or Mariah. And then we had some of our IT people were in there. Shadi, yeah. So I should have told you this too. So right beyond that coat room is another tiny room that holds the IT help area. And so you can always reach out to find members there, and also do an e-help through our email system. And that's probably quicker. They can find you and help you with what you need.
Am I correct that this is all, am I correct that this is set up this way for the duration of COVID and then we'll return to normal?
That's my understanding, that through this session, this is the way it will be. I don't know beyond that. I don't think there's been any definite decisions made.
Okay,
Yes, and then drafting operations too is still back where they used to be, and you still have access to them. And then the mezzanine, which will be, chiefs will go over that a little bit about availability for the doors to be. But your chief counsel, Jennifer Carby's on that floor, along with some other attorneys that were up on that floor. They're still there.
because things will work better with everyone, with all the staff back in the State House, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
That is an
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
ongoing, it's an ongoing conversation, and really no formal decisions have been made. The folks who have been traditionally on the mezzanine, there's conversation going on about whether they may want to or not want to move over to 2 Aiken, but it is an ongoing conversation. I completely agree with you. It would be nice to have everybody in the building at the same time, more efficient. But unfortunately, we remain with a lack of space, and that might be problematic. Russ, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The linking door must be the door on the left-hand side as you face the State House.
No, the Lincoln door is, you know, where the Abe Lincoln bust is in that hallway?
No,
Okay.
I've been there 3 times in my
I
life.
know. So if you're facing the State House and you're going to park on the right side, then you just come up behind the State House and you'll see kind of an archway.
Yep.
There's a door there. Our
Thank you.
side doors with the steps, we've chosen to keep those closed for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for asking that question, Russ, because it makes all of us feel like we're really old and we know too much. Senator
I
Mazza.
don't feel old.
Yeah, Chair, you spoke of the existing cloakroom. Is the mailroom gone too?
Yes, it is for now. So we have, believe it or not, in the lobby, we've
Right.
got some file boxes for you. Our pages are eagerly waiting your return to deliver your mail to you.
And, but, so how did I asked this question, I think before, how did the House Committee get that whole room to themselves? I mean, we've been begging for one committee room, and yet the House got the whole room, the mail room and the cloakroom together?
Well, Senator, I think that's beyond me. I think the advisory committee gave a recommendation to the rules committees, and this is where we landed.
Oh, Joe, weren't you instrumental, Joe, in getting a committee room for Bobby Starr? What happened?
Was I? Yeah, I started that way, but unfortunately it got shifted over to this committee on rules, which I don't belong to anymore. I know somebody on this screen does.
Well, it was never brought before us as an item that we were going to make that decision. I could trust it. Must have been a package deal, because that never stood out as that room is huge to have one committee room, and being a House committee room, it's even more frustrating.
Well, we brought Bobby into that room initially, and Bobby said it was too big for his purposes. So there were subsequent conversations. Initially, the pro tem had volunteered her office for Bobby's committee.
Right.
That got overruled. So now, as I understand it, Bobby's committee, which is a morning committee, will be meeting in Senate Education. And in the afternoon, Senate Education will take that same room back over.
Okay.
That's my latest understanding.
Okay, we didn't know that. Okay, but
But we are back, I'm sorry, we are back to the point where we have to figure out how do we accommodate Senate committee rooms. We have not solved that problem by any stretch.
okay, thank you.
I will add, Senator Mazza, that Senator Starr still has the use of his other committee room for, other purposes that he may need if he's meeting with us. So it's just not his room for.
Yeah, it's good for a bathroom, yeah.
There's one other thing I'd like to add is that,
Sure.
since you've been here, we are doing, PCR testing here, at 4 Aiken, one of our other buildings that we're occupying. We do those on, Wednesdays and Fridays from 8 to 12:30. So it's a little bit of a walk down, but, you know, half a block, not too bad.
Any other questions for Janet thus far?
The one more, Senator Benning, so you know that the legislature still has access to the 109 building on the second floor, and that's over in the pavilion area. So our members are still using some of those rooms for caucus meetings and just other meetings that may need to happen. And so I just
Okay.
want folks to know that as well.
We don't have to be tested when we go to into the State House, do we?
Oh, there's a whole testing policy. Well, for the Senate has Secretary Bloomer has the information for you about that.
Okay,
You
okay.
know,
I
it's
know.
highly
We went through it.
recommended that you take a rapid test and that we can provide all of our members, House and Senate, with rapid tests at your house, or, you know, we'll give them to you and you just test before you come.
Okay,
And I think the bottom line that we're always stressing to everyone is if you have any symptoms at all, please don't come to the State House.
So that also is an ongoing conversation, as I understand it, and that will again be in the Rules Committee for making up its mind as to how and under what circumstances we're going back in the building. And the reason it's an ongoing conversation is the landscape is shifting under our feet as we go through each day. If you're keeping tabs on the hospitalization rates and ICU rates, VT Digger has a wonderful display every day about where our rates are. The bottom is dropping out of the hospitalization and ICU rates. We're still on a roller coaster with transmission rates, but the example I like to use is we have almost daily reporting from the Department of Corrections about the health of the inmates in the population. And even though I get a report that says there are now, for instance, 48 incarcerated individuals who have tested positive, none of them have symptoms and none of them have been hospitalized. So the landscape is shifting, and the reason I'm bringing all of this up is the Rules Committee is going to be on top of that. And it is very important that the Rules Committee have all of that information at its fingertips as decisions are being made. Janet, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to tell us.
Just follow the rules. They'll be after you if you don't.
Understand.
No, Senator, that's it. And thanks for having me here.
Sure, I understand that this the landscape for you has been pretty delicate to walk on over the past number of months, and I appreciate the work you've been doing to try to keep everybody on an even keel. It can't be easy, I'm sure.
Now, it's been a bit of a challenge, but we've been doing it, and I've got a good team to help me. So thank you very much. So,
Thanks for coming by. Chief, before we go into any kind of executive session, I don't know if you wanted to add to this part of the conversation that isn't really anything we need to worry about security-wise. And I don't know how much we're going to talk about security-wise. Probably not a lot, I'm hoping. But I wanted to have, at least in the open session, an opportunity for you to weigh in on this part of the conversation.
Sure. Well, thank you, Senator Matthew Romian, Capitol Police Chief. I guess the biggest thing I would touch on right now is parking. You will no longer see a sign that says, Senate Majority Leader or Speaker of the House. All of those office-specific signs have come down as part of a bigger effort across the Capitol complex to standardize labeling and marking. And those spots are labeled with an alphanumeric labeling system. So for instance, what we used to refer to as the pit is parking lot A, right, as an apple in the complex. And so parking spaces in there are numbered, and it gives us and BGS security and judicial security and Montpelier police, everybody else that's around, a little better handle. So we're all talking about the same space when we're interacting with each other. And those that have designated parking spaces, whether it's parking of privilege or parking of accessibility, they know their space numbers. And we'll send something out next week just to remind everybody, you know, if you don't have a assigned space, don't park in these spots.
Chief, when you referred to the pit, you're talking about the parking lot behind the Thrush Tavern?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we are, as legislators, are we now authorized to park down there?
There is a strip of parking in that parking lot that is reserved for legislators.
Okay.
It's and I'll send you the, well, matter of fact, BGS has the map on their webpage.
Could we have that map, please?
Yes, sir. We'll send it out. But BGS does display that on their webpage. And where there is a number of parking spaces reserved for legislators and legislative staff, there is not a 1-to-1 ratio by any means. So there's substantially less than 181 legislative parking spots, and there's substantially less than, well, we have 103 full-time employees, I think.
No, not full-time, the total employees.
Oh, so
Yeah.
our total employees, we have substantially less than that number of assigned legislative staff spots. So if you're staying in the Capitol Plaza or somewhere else close that can walk, that's always a good opportunity. There is a My Ride service now from GMTA where you can park in the Department of Labor, where there used to be a shuttle that ran every 20 minutes. Now you can just get on the app or call a phone number at GMTA, and they'll pick you up at the back bumper of your car and deliver you to the side door of the State House. And that's free.
Yeah, and that's about an 8-mile radius. So through the central area right here. So if you're staying in an apartment or something like that. That would work.
Is that something that is available to us in a, for instance, if you're sending out a map of the parking lot, is that information available on that document, whatever you're sending out?
We'll attach that informational document as well, sir.
Yeah. The one thing that I'd like to add about parking is in the complex that, you know, we've got still a lot of our regular state employees besides our legislative employees. And some of those employees are still working remotely. I think they're still working out the wrinkles of who's here and who's not. And so part of that is parking really has been okay because not everybody is back in full swing, and we don't know if they will be. Maybe some of these jobs will stay remote, which does open up parking for everyone.
The only other things, no, I'm sorry, Senator, go ahead.
Sure, no, go ahead.
The only other thing I would mention is, you know, there is legislative space in now 7 buildings in the complex. So if you're needing a place to meet, I mean, it doesn't exist in the State House anymore. You know, so our swing rooms, the 10s, the 11s, the Ethan Allen room, those spaces are occupied. But there is space in the complex, and it's all booked right through the Sergeant at Arms office. And, you know, someone in that office, or even if you can't find anybody, one of us can help you find something if you need a place for a meeting. We are still working through recovering from the access control challenges that COVID brought with it. If you recall, when COVID kicked off, there was basically it was all flushed because the Joint Rules Committee ordered the building shut down, nobody accessing it, et cetera, et cetera. And it's taken a while to integrate the new buildings and to develop the access control matrix and get it all fixed. BGS has been working with us, and we should have that done by the time you come back. But if you run across the door that you're supposed to get into that you can't, just let us know. We'll help you fix it. We'll help get it fixed. One of the challenges we do see is with 109. Sometimes folks are having to go around to the Davis Avenue side, the public entrance, to get in. But like I said, hopefully that's going to be resolved by the time you guys return.
Swipe cards still get us into the parking lot, okay?
If everything's working right, yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll see at the end of the day whether the plow took out the gate again or not.
Well, it's better than going out through that gate and having it drop down on your head while you're on your motorcycle, but that's another story for another day.
Yes, please.
That's why you need a helmet, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, that's what they
Glad
tell
you
me.
brought that up. Glad you brought that up because you'd be hurting your head if it wasn't for that helmet.
Senator Ingalls, did you get your questions asked? You know what you're doing to get to the State House?
I guess the answer would be yes.
Go to Montpelier, turn right, look for that big building with the yellow dome on top and a little lady standing there with a sheaf of wheat in her hands.
Your name is on top.
Yeah, and then proceed in accordingly. But the best piece of advice, get there real early in the morning if you want a parking spot.
Mm-hmm.
Probably shouldn't have said that on YouTube, but that was always my secret. Anybody else have any questions? Or Chief, do you have anything else you want to tell us prior to me asking for a vote on whether to go into executive session?
I think we're good unless you have questions, Senator.
I don't see anybody.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll express my approval of not having the named parking spaces. Years ago, I was majority leader. It never occurred to me to ask for my own parking space. Last time I looked, the assistant house minority, not even minority, the assistant house progressive leader had their own parking space. So
They only have 5 people. 2 of them get a parking spot.
yeah, I know.
Right. Now, we had that issue because at the expense of Brian Collmore, who was the Republican assistant minority leader, his sign was taken down to put in that assistant to the assistant progressive leader. That was a funny conversation that we had after that.
Yeah.
All right, so I would like to go very briefly, hopefully not for any length of time whatsoever, into executive session. If you folks want to go into that mode, I need to have a 2/3 vote of the committee to do so. Do I hear a motion? Senator Mazen. All right. I'm gonna just, well, Senator Mazen, am I safe in assuming you're in favor of the motion?
Yeah. Yes.
Senator Ingalls,
Yes.
Senator Parent,
Yes.
and Senator McCormick. Okay, again, for the
Yes.
purpose of those of you who are on YouTube, we're going very briefly into a conversation about what, if any, security measures have been taken, and this is not the kind of material that we would want broadcast to the world at large. So Alex, at this point in time, I'm going to ask you to take